I've been thinking, do prices ever go down? In inflation, we say this is when prices are going up at a crazy rate, like what they've been doing for the past 2 years. But I was sitting here thinking to myself, okay, the prices have gone up, right? Like, let's say the price of bread has gone up to $4. Is this the new normal? So is it when we say, okay, inflation has slowed down, it's no longer on the rise? Does that mean prices will fall, or does it mean our income has to increase and we have to match that, and then that becomes the new normal? Like, I live in Vancouver, where like average house is $1,005,000, right? Will there ever be a time where those houses come back to 500,000? Like, is that really a possibility? To all my economics friends, please help me. Does this actually happen? I know that there's a phenomenon called deflation, but how do we solve the issues that have occurred? Like, it makes me wonder. It makes me actually worry. Like, where are we headed as a world, as the world, with these crazy prices, especially here in Canada? Like, there's a lot of questions that economical questions that I think that we should start asking ourselves and start asking the government, because I feel like a lot of people are hopeful that post pandemic issues will end, and like how the economy has been affected by the wars around the world, the decisions that were made during the pandemic, the effects of that, how those have, you know, sort of caused all these economic shifts. But now we're at a point whereby it's like, where are we going, and what are we doing? And do we actually have systems in place to protect us? You know? And I think that I don't want to sound and make people be like scared or worried, but I'm starting to think that we may actually be in more trouble than we actually think we are, especially in Canada. The cost of living in Vancouver is ridiculous, right? So I'm talking to this person and they're like, hey, I'm renting out a house and I expect to make $4,000 a month. I'm paying a $10,000 mortgage. And I'm like, what the fuck? If that's what you're making. And then I'm like, how in order for a person to move into a house, how much do they have to be making, right? So if you have to be making, if you're in an individual renting out this house, you're supposed to be making, they say you should spend 30% of your income on rent. So if we were to go by those numbers, if 4,000 equals 30%, you're likely to be spending around maybe around $15,000 a month, which is, what type of job are you making that pays you $15,000 a month? Because at 15K a month, that means per year you are probably one of the few people that make over $100,000 a year, right? So if you're saying 15,000 times 15,000 times 12, you're making almost almost $200,000 a year to be able to rent that household by yourself. If you're a family, you still should be making around 200,000. And if you're spending $4,000 on rent alone, what about your other expenses? So I think that in Canada we have a significant issue that needs to be sorted. Like, I think gone are the days of just saying we have a good economy and everything is working, but it's like, it's working for who and what? And because realistically speaking, in places like Vancouver where our costs do not justify themselves, right? Like, why would a place cost 15,000 right now? The major issue is people say we have the housing crisis, which is true, because we have more people than we have houses, which has jacked up the cost of rentals. But that also is in part to do with the increase in interest rates, which has affected people who are buying houses. So it's not really an investment anymore, because your cost of living is crazy. So now you have families having to come, six people to purchase a single house, which should be ridiculous. But that's the situation we find ourselves in. And it's like, okay, what do we do and what is being done? And I think that at the forefront of what our prime minister should be talking about is what is being done to mitigate these issues, because right now we are in a situation where the economy is not viable. It's not viable for an everyday person. Like, this economy doesn't work. If you are making minimum wage in British Columbia, you barely afford a room, right? You can barely afford to have a life outside of work. The amount of times, the amount of people I've seen doing things like Uber Eats and DoorDash and all that, it's not normal. People should be, and I fine, I get it, what is normal, but people should not finish work and start doing Uber Eats. People should finish work, go home, spend time with their families. But people have to do this to cover for costs, because whatever they're earning is not enough. And we're at a time now where I don't even know what's going to happen. I don't even know what the economic outlook for next year is. Last year I was like, oh, there's going to be a recession or whatever. But those were comfortable times. Now we're burning.